Hi everyone, I'm Hannah and these are my nuggets of grammar. In today's lesson, we'll revise basic rules of the past simple, past continuous and past perfect tenses, and we'll also do 2 exercises to see how to use all of these 3 tenses together. First, let's take a look at this example. I slept, an alarm went off. These are 2 actions in the past, both are in the past simple. If we don't make any changes here, it would mean that I slept, so the first action happened first, and then after a while, after I woke up, an alarm went off. The second action happened next. What if I mean to say that my sleep was disrupted and the alarm went off in the middle of the night? I would need to change one of these tenses to the past continuous, and it will be I was sleeping, to show that this action was in progress. The first action was in progress when the second action interrupted the process. So the past continuous is used to describe actions in progress in the past, whereas the past simple describes actions which happen one after another, or completed actions. Now let's move on to this example. Again, you can see that all the actions are here in the past simple, and what it would mean if we don't make any changes is that first I came home, then I wanted to open the door, afterwards I realized, and then it's not clear what exactly I realized, because what I did next was that I rushed back to the office, left the key there, and then probably returned home. So it would be complete nonsense. What actually I mean is I realized that before that I had left the key in the office, and to show this transition in time, that this action had happened before other actions in the past, that this order was broken, I need to use the past perfect tense. And it would mean to the listener that this action had happened before some other past actions. So the past perfect helps us to show that some actions in our story had happened before those that we have already mentioned. And now let's move on to doing exercises. I highly recommend that you do these exercises first and then listen to my explanation. The first exercise is my first car nightmare. This story happened to me about 5 years ago, and is probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me while driving a car. The story begins in the past simple. The next sentence is I had bought my car the week before, and we can see that the past perfect is used here. Can we just put it in the past simple and say I bought my car the week before? No, we can't, because what it would mean is that I bought my car 1 week ago and I still felt very excited about it. Or you can say I was feeling very excited about it. And you may be surprised to hear that we can use both the past continuous and the past simple with the word feel, because the word feel is an exception to all rules. It is both a dative and an activity verb. I can say I feel good or I'm feeling good without much difference in meaning. It didn't have air conditioning, but that didn't matter to me. These 2 verbs describe states. I'm describing the car that I had at that time. Like now I have a car and it doesn't have any air conditioning and it doesn't matter to me. I just put it in the past and say at that time when all of these things happened, when I owned the car, it didn't have any air conditioning and it didn't matter to me. 2 states. I knew that my best friend Penny had always wanted to visit a picturesque little village. I knew because it's a state at that time, just like all of these states. I'm describing what it was like at the same time. I was feeling, or I felt excited when the story happened. There wasn't any air conditioning, it didn't matter, and at the same time I knew, so my state of mind was that I knew. Maybe I had known it before, but that's not what I mean to say. It's like I know that my friend wants to go on a trip, and at that time when I decided to take her on that trip, I knew that she had always wanted to travel. Before all of these events took place, she had always wanted. Because the word always acts here like a period of time, meaning that before I took her on this trip, she had wanted it for a long time, and then obviously when we went on that trip, she stopped wanting it. But if we remove the word always from here, we would just need to use the past simple to describe the state. I knew that she wanted to visit a picturesque village. So I called her and I told her that I would take her there the following days. These actions happened after those that I mentioned before. So when I decided that I would take her on this trip, I called her and told her. It was a perfect warm spring day. The sun shone. If I say shone, it would mean that the sun rose and then set, and throughout the whole day it was darkness. It would mean a short action. I don't want to show a completed action. I want to set the setting for our story and say that the sun was shining. It was a process and it was shining throughout the whole day, actually during our trip. So, was shining. While I was driving and we were chatting, while I was driving, a process, and we were chatting at the same time, two processes simultaneously. Were chatting. I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and these two processes were interrupted by a short completed action. I saw something. It happened next, somewhere here. It was a wasp which, and if you feel like saying was flying into the car, it would be like in a slow motion movie, as if you had eyesight of a hawk, or like, you know, remember the bullet flying in the Matrix film, you know, it's like I saw the bullet was flying. The same, I saw the wasp was flying inside, would be something like that. What I mean is that I saw that it was probably very fast, so a human's eye cannot detect this motion as a process. So I saw that it had flown into the car. Penny and I both tried to kill the wasp. Here we need tried because we don't want to emphasize the process. We just want to emphasize our effort, which was buzzing inside the car. Then we saw, we tried. If we said we were trying, there would have been another action that would have interrupted it in the past. For example, we were trying to kill it when we bumped into a tree. But what happened next was the wasp suddenly disappeared. It is the next action, so we need the past simple to describe it. Then I felt pain in my arm. Then, obviously, the wasp, and if you use here stung me, it would mean that first I felt pain and afterwards the wasp stung me. So the pain was not caused by the wasp, but by something different. But what we mean here is that I felt the pain because the wasp had stung me before, and that was the reason why I felt this pain in my arm. That's why I need to make this transition to the previous action to explain the nature of the pain. Had stung. I forgot that I was driving. Again, I'm describing a process because this process of driving was interrupted by something. There was an accident, and bang, I crashed into the car in front of me, a process which was interrupted. And bang, interruption, crashed. And now the next exercise. My exam nightmare. I woke up on the morning of the maths exam with a horrible feeling in my stomach. I knew that I hadn't studied enough the night before. We need here the past perfect because I woke up. But I hadn't studied the night before, and I mentioned something before this past action, so I need to choose the past perfect to express it. When I left home, It was raining and there was a lot of traffic. I'm describing the process. It's not that it rained and then stopped and afterwards I went to school or university. What I mean is that when I went out to the street, I saw that it was raining. I arrived 5 minutes late. Then I arrived 5 minutes late and the exam had already started. Right, this is the past perfect. Had already started somewhere here. Well, can I say I arrived and it started? No, because it would mean that first I arrived and then it started, so I wasn't late. If I mean to say that I was late, I need to use the past perfect. I sat down quickly, sat down and looked at the questions. I couldn't answer any of them. Yeah, it's a state. It was the most difficult exam the teacher had ever given to us. So it was difficult that the teacher had ever given to us, before. So the past perfect is used here. I was sitting next to one of my friends called Sophie, or I sat next to one of my friends called Sophie. The action of sitting is perceived by native speakers as the process. No, it's not the same as to sit down, because look at the previous paragraph. There, he or she says, I sat down quickly and looked at the questions. And I could see that she was writing very quickly. She was writing, another process. As I was sitting, I could see that she was writing. I could see is a state. Suddenly, I had an idea. I was looking. I looked at the teacher, Mr. Everett. He was standing by the window, because what she means here is a completed action. It's not that she was sitting and instead of writing, she was looking. She didn't have so much time, so she just looked to check what the teacher was doing at that time. And she noticed that at that time, Mr. Everett was standing by the window and doing nothing. Again, stand is an action in the English language. That's why we show it as a process. And as he was standing, at the same time, he was looking elsewhere, but not at them. Look is also a process. What I did next was I wrote a message on a piece of paper and I threw it to Sophie. The next short action. By that time, when I threw it, she had already finished her exam. Had finished. The following day, Mr. Everett called us both to his room. Past simple. We saw that he was holding my exam paper and Sophie's too. We saw as we entered that he was holding. That's a process. Yes, the action of holding is also perceived to be a process. Sitting, holding, standing are all action verbs which can be depicted as processes. He told us that we both had failed the exam because it had happened before. If I say that he told us that we failed, I would mean to say that after he told us we failed. But no, he had already decided on the mark. We had written exactly the same answers for every question because they had done it before this scene. Somewhere here while they were sitting in the class had written. If you have any questions regarding either of these exercises, please let me know in the comments below. Goodbye!